So yeah, thanks very much for coming to the session. My name is Danis. I traveled from Melbourne, Australia, all the way, so maybe one of the furthest places to come, and very lucky that I got sponsored to come here, so I get to come and talk to you about the mobile apps. And you know, Drupal and mobile apps normally don't go together, right? And most great ideas come from frustration. So I've spent a lot of time working in the state and federal government because in Australia, Drupal is the choice for government websites. So a lot of social services, a lot of the websites that are specific to providing different information about government departments are all run on Drupal. Maybe 400 government departments. They have a lot of small Drupal sites, and there's a huge market. And inevitably, at one point, there comes the need to make a mobile application, for example, for COVID check-in or for additional information, mental health, something like that. So I've been spending quite a lot of time in the government and worked in the Drupal space, and somehow there's always been an agency that comes on board that is contracted to do a mobile application that connects to Drupal. Because all the content is in Drupal, all the articles and all the information is already in Drupal, when the mobile app is made, inevitably it's trying to pull the data from Drupal. And very likely that whoever is building the mobile application is not the Drupal agency or a Drupal contractor or a Drupal developer. It's going to be someone else, either building a native app or they're going to build a web app. And there's always a conflict that comes, whether you're using the best practices in Drupal or whether you're using some hacky approach to get the job done. Very likely as well, when someone gets hired to do a mobile app, it's a fixed cost engagement. They normally don't really stay for too long. And the Drupal people normally do, and they end up maintaining and faced with some interesting problems. So out of frustration and probably experience, I decided to build a module to see how we can use Drupal in a more standardized way to manage mobile applications in the government, and I hope that it's going to spread. So yeah, okay, so a little bit about me. What's inspired this talk? Working with a lot of agencies and looking at how apps are built and incorrectly use Drupal or not the best way. Major issues and conflicts. And it would be great if Drupal can have a centralized approach for managing mobile applications. So I built a little demo, feel free to scan it, and because I built it in Flutter and used Firebase, Google Firebase as a backend, it will show you real-time changes as I go through my presentation. For now, we're just going to say, do nothing. So you can feel free to just have your phone on. All right, so I've been I can't believe my account is 14 years old now. In my daily life in Australia, I look after a team of 18 across the development, architecture, DevOps, QA, and product in a company called Seeing Machines. And Seeing Machines does this really amazing things called driver distraction monitoring technology to keep people safe. And so they put devices in cars and they track whether a person is distracted, and they can predict microsleep or distraction in real time before it happens. And the app that I was asked to build in my workplace is related to notifying managers of the fleets about distraction, which is a real-time need. Used to be done using SMS for real-time notification, but with SMS, it's really expensive. 6 costs per event. 6 cents, 10 cents? So when you have a global company that has 60,000, 100,000 devices in different trucks, and every time someone gets tired, the bill gets pretty huge. So push notification is really great. And that's why a mobile application can be built. So yeah, basically, all right. That's what the device looks like. It just goes into the truck, and it uses a lot of AWS stuff, and we're building a mobile app in the back, so I'll demo that as well. All right, okay. Talking about why would we want to manage content or configuration in a mobile application, first of all. Normal thing is, if you made a mistake in production, you just push a fix, right? And it takes 10 minutes. As long as you got permission or access to production, it's fairly straightforward. With the mobile apps, it's not the same. You need to compile a binary from code, and you need to submit that binary to an app store, Apple Store, Google Play, right? And then you have to wait, and you're at the mercy of Apple and Google to see whether they will approve it or not. Now, Google's generally pretty good, but Apple is known for being extremely tricky when it comes to app approvals. For example, I made a spelling mistake in a binary which got approved when I pushed the app to Apple Store. And then someone noticed it, and I did a string change, just changed one text label. As then I have deployed the binary, Apple said to me, oh, we have a new policy. You need to have login with Apple now, a button. And I was like, oh, this app is not going to get approved to go to production unless this new thing is built. So it took 2 weeks to build login with Apple. And by the time I submitted that, Apple went back to me and said, there's a new change actually. If you create an account, you need to have an ability to programmatically delete an account. That's the policy. Now normally, yeah, in Drupal maybe you don't want to give a person a permission to delete their account. But with the platform, you don't have an option. The binary will not get approved. So a spelling mistake, a zero-day vulnerability, a problem can stay in the App Store for a very, very long time because you're waiting on that binary to be approved and they keep rejecting it. So last time I did that, 28 attempts before Apple has approved my app. This is some of the examples, right? So sorry, but something's not right with the dependency. Sorry, but something's not right with something else. Alrighty, so that is the problem. So what I wanted to do is to use Drupal to be able to change stuff inside the mobile app once it's already deployed into production. Normally with a website it's easy, right? But with a binary it's not that easy because it's a compiled piece of software that is being deployed and approved. Any changes need to be re-approved by Apple. So a little bit about the tech stack. So use Flutter. I don't know if anybody familiar with Flutter or not, but Flutter is essentially a framework that Google came up with 2017. And you write code called Dart, and it compiles natively to iOS, Android, Windows, Linux, and web at the same time. So you write code in one place, and then you can make apps. Now it's really great because it compiles natively, which means it's not a web wrapper like React Native. It's actually machine code, and so it's much quicker. I'm sure there's some new technology going to come up very soon, and probably something already exists that I don't know about, but I'm a big fan of Flutter. Single code base, very fast, and there's no limitation to, so you could customize every pixel, make games, and things like that. Yep, so I'm going to do a demo now just to show you how this works. And I've got here an iPad that's going to sit here, but also I have a binary which hopefully has compiled. Uh-oh, hasn't compiled yet. That's all right. So this is a web version. Now, this is what Google Firebase console looks like, right? So it's a product by Google that kind of combines in itself authentication, NoSQL Firestore database, logs, app testing, even hosting for static apps, and now they're also hosting Angular apps. So I have deployed an app, and it looks like this. If you scan with your phone, your phone would look like that at the same time. So if you don't refresh this screen, I'll show you the code again. If you want to scan it, if you do not refresh the page, you will see the real-time changes to the app that I'm going to trigger, which is the beautiful thing about a Firebase SDK that's being used inside this app. And then I'm going to show you how Drupal can change in real time the app, which I'm sure everyone wants to see. Okay, so now this is the app, and here we've got the database. Now, NoSQL database is not like structured database, it's basically a fancy JSON file the way I see it. So for example, here we've got collections. And under collections, we've got documents and fields. So for example, here I made a collection, and in here we've got dark mode, true or false, some main text, colors, small text, something like that, right? So if I was to change one line here, my demo and your phones are going to change at the same time. So this is a live demo, not recorded, so bear with me for a bit. As you can see here, we've got some text called DrupalCon Atlanta 2025 demo. If I'm just going to go and say hello world, and click update, and if you see your phones, very likely it will change really, really fast. Now that's really cool because you haven't refreshed your phone. Now the same thing, because it's built in Flutter, as you can see, it's hosted on the web. The same thing will happen in the binary in the App Store. So this technology came from, like the way I found out about this technology, it came from the building a live chat application. So then I thought, wow, well you can control so many things in the app once it's in production, right? You don't need to resubmit the binary. You can just prepare yourself ahead of time, and then the app that you're going to have is going to change in production without you having to go through the approval process, which could save you weeks of development. All right, so I'll show you this interesting game that I've built. As you can see here, it says show game equals false. So I'm going to change this to true. And that should immediately change the application. Now, the fun of trying to gamify it is this. If you like it on GitHub, you're going to the draw to win a fancy American Express gift card. And that's going to show you the real-time functionality of this application. So there's a GitHub button. If you like it or star it, you should see within around 200 milliseconds, your name will appear, and you can feel free to unstar it afterwards, but your name will appear in here. Now, the way that works, you can see the stars are starting to come in, and you're able to also scroll through the mobile app and selling stars. Now, you feel free to unlike it later. It's just a fun demo, right? But every time one person is added, a random person gets picked from the list to become the winner of the card. And at the end of the talk, we will give the gift card to the winner. This is just to show you the demo, right? So how does that work? In here, we've got a webhook that GitHub sends and hits the endpoint, and it creates a document in the Firestorm. As you can see in here, every time a document gets created, you have your GitHub username here, and the link and the profile gets passed into the Firestorm. So then let's have a look at the Drupal part of this. So I made a module, and the module is now in the alpha, and you're able to install it. And the way the module works is you will need a JSON file from Firebase. So you create the Firebase and you generate yourself here in the project a secret in the users and permissions. And then, sorry, it's in here. Once you generate the JSON file, that's a secret, you can add it to the Drupal private key. You can add it to the Drupal module, and you can store it in the environment variable. Chase is the winner. Let me show you. So this is the Firebase configuration module. Now, you do need a Firebase JSON key, which is generated by Firebase, and then you can add it to an environment variable, and I'm just adding the support for the key module very soon, a couple of days. And as soon as you basically upload or set your Firebase key in here, you'll be able to see all of the collections that you have created in Firebase, right? So for example, if I'm gonna go here now and make myself a new collection, let's say I make a collection called Hello World. should be able to pull that collection, here we go, into the list of collections. So you can install that module now. Now once you install that module, you can pick which collection you want, and in my situation, I'm interested in this collection. I can change the text. So now I can write, thank you for attending my talk. And if you just watch your phones as I say this. Has it updated yet? Not yet. Could be occasion. Oh, could be a special character. That's a special character. So let me just resave this. Not working. Okay, that's fine. The idea is that once the Drupal module is supposed to change the string, I think I just generated a new private key and it broke the connection. But once you update something in the collection, it's going to immediately update it here in the Firebase, and then immediately it's going to change the application. So another thing that I did, for example, is I added a color, and let's say I want to go red. So once I update the color to red, the app would instantly change the color, for example. You could hide the game again, which is just you have to change the flag to false. Trying to do that in the Drupal end. Yeah, I think something's happening with the connection, so sorry about that. So if I change this to false, the game hides. So that is, in a nutshell, the change. And why is this so important? There was a big disaster. I don't know if anyone remembers JSON API back in Drupal 8.4 going from a custom module into the Drupal core module, and that changed the structure of the endpoints completely, right? So I was working in the government department, and there was a zero-day vulnerability in 8.4. We had to update immediately. We knew that if we were to update, you cannot fix the JSON endpoints. The structure is going to change. There was a really important mental health app that was consuming the data from those endpoints. And the moment we bumped it up to 8.5, the JSON API module went into Drupal core, the data structures changed in the endpoints, and as a result, the app just went. It's just dead straight away. Now, why? Well, it was asking for all the structure. It was hard-coded into the binary, and the agency disappeared. So when we found the agency and signed a new contract to fix that with the agency, they needed more information about the new structure. They needed to recompile the binary. That took 2 weeks, and then they had to resubmit it back to the App Store, and that took 2 weeks with a couple of rejections because it's been too long, so the policy is updated. So the app was broken for months, and that was a very big government application. So, and as a result, yeah, of course, the app has hard-coded stuff, and it's consuming data from Drupal. This way, the app would be using a binary, and it would be using the SDK. So that's not going to change. And in a sense, you could push the changes straight into the app, which would give you a little bit more time. Now, that is possible because of a tool called, just a second. A tool called Stream Builder, which is a Flutter widget that essentially watches the stream from the collection, and the moment there's any change to the stream, it reacts. This is a little bit Flutter space, but in a sense you have this real-time listener here in the code base, and it watches for changes in the collection continuously. The moment something happens, it's going to display the game or hide the game, just like what I showed you now. Now the application is pretty wide, so you could, for example, if it's Christmas, you could add snow. If you pass the logo as a URL, you could then just change the URL and the logo in the app will change, which otherwise you just have to embed that logo. And you could hide sections in the menu, you could show them again, you could rename them. Another way, what you could do and what we're doing at Seeing Machines is translations. The app needs to be translated into 14 different languages, and we might want to add another language. Now, do we want to resubmit the binary, or do we just want to add another collection with the languages? Sounds much easier, it's just to add a collection in real time. It's much simpler, right? Now, yeah, so when the design team gave me the app at my work, these are all the accidents that are coming in. Accidents, distractions, fatigues. They are all stored in Firebase, so real-time data. So the moment something gets created, in a second, it automatically gets pushed into the app instead of the app having to query an endpoint. Much better. Then, if you see here, events, alerts, settings, my profile. If someone decides to remove something or hide something or hide a functionality because there's a bug or something's wrong and you want to temporarily stop it, even if you want to put the app in maintenance mode, this is the tech you could essentially use instead of, I don't even know what the other option would be that could be considered the best practice. Translations, settings, and data all done with String Builder, and essentially that allows you to pull the data in real time and react to changes in the data using this String Builder in real time. And Drupal, end of the space, is allowing non-technical users to be able to edit the collections and data in the Drupal as long as they have permission, and then that consequently changes the state of the mobile app. All right, that's where we're going. Let's see if we can unhide this and see who's the winner. All right, so far C. Zorns is in the winning area. Whilst I'm here, does anyone have any questions? Anyone has anything they would like to ask? Yeah?
So how can you push my stateful data?
How can you push the state?
Stateful data, say each user has an app, there's a different user, you have a target set a user to send specific stateful data.
Yeah, that's a great question. So how can you target a specific user or specific state to only apply changes to this particular state? In a sense, you have a logic that's written in a mobile application, right? So you could write conditional statements, you could write if and else. If something is that for the user, then do that. So as you can see here, we've got collections. Let's say we've got a collection called user. Very likely, especially if you have like authentication or OAuth, when the user gets created, it's going to go into the user's collection. Under that user's collection, it's going to have fields: user name, user access level, and you can create as many names as you want. You could create flags or Boolean values. And then based on that particular user setup in the Firestore collection, you could change the way the app would behave. For example, a user might have an admin access level, a user might be normal. Now, you could watch for that field value under the user collection, and then you could hide the admin menu. And the moment that becomes true or false, right, then you just show it in the same way like that we've changed the color just now. I hope that helps. Yeah.
So essentially you have to define a certain set of things that you want to be able to be configurable like this before you deploy the application, right? So how do you work with your, say, app development team to get something like this in place while we're on the Drupal side? Like what
Yeah.
What happens to that?
That's a great question. So I'm repeating as per instructions so that it's recorded. How do you work with the development team? How do you communicate the best practice to the development team? Well, very likely when the development team comes in, very likely they don't know what Drupal is. So they're going to say, we need a menu, links, and we need endpoints for these 3 or 4 or 5 content types, for example, right? Give me the endpoints. At that point you say, are you sure you want the endpoints? Because I can see that in the next version of Drupal, which is coming in 3 months, they're going to remove a field and then your app will break. Have you considered, and normally in my experience, when the agency comes, they do discovery first, because it's not like they're going to come and say, oh, you have a Drupal instance that's been sitting here for so long, we want to do things our way. Very likely they come in for 3 to 4 months, 5 months, and they would be like, okay, how do I integrate, how do I consume your content? At which point you say, hey, you know what the best practice would be? Use Firebase SDK, pull that into your code, because you could pull that into React app, you could pull that into a Capacitor, Angular app, you could do Flutter app. You can also use native. The Firebase provides SDKs for Swift and Android, Java. So once you embed that SDK, you can just query the collections and you can just point them into the right direction. Get the SDK, query these collections, and that's what the content is. That's how I would do it.
And for the part that you showed on the Drupal side, is that a custom module? Or
Yeah. Yeah, so, and that really, yeah, so the module is in alpha at the moment. Let me see if I can find it for you. Sorry, jet lagged from 23 hours on a plane. Yeah, so the module is called Firebase Manager, and yeah, I really would like to grow this module a lot because I think there is a phenomenal amount of best practices that you could achieve here, and in a sense, you could control the mobile app in so many ways without having to remove it. An example would be, right, a product manager asked me like, oh, it's Christmas, do you mind like changing an icon and making it like snowy, and can you have the snow sprinkling? Oh, okay. So I have to go compile the app, build the snow, go to the app store, submit it, and guess what? Guess how many other people submitting the snow during Christmas time? A lot. So 2 weeks for snow, and then I got, sorry, you're in violation of 5.3.13. It happens to be that you're using API 35, and we just made the rule that API 35, we still maintain the old apps, but not the new ones. So if you've got the new release, we would like you to bump it up to 36. And at that point, I'm like, oh, it should be easy enough, right? So Drupal's using Composer. In Flutter, you're using similar things called pub. So you pub get the new API version, and then 5 other dependencies break. The classic Composer situation, right? And then you have to go and solve conflicts. Now, you solve the conflict, you submit it, you wait a week, Apple push back again. So the snow is not coming. A better way would be to have an ability to add an SVG or a PNG or a GIF, right? And just add a layer that's transparent. And then push a link to that GIF in here. And then that's just going to update into a snow that's falling down. And that's really talking about very custom at front end and looking at all these amazing talks that are happening at this conference now, Starshot and all. I think I'd really like to also do, by the time Drupal Vienna is coming, I'd really like to build this into a composable component as well, so that it can be used in a much better way. But for now, the Flutter front end or any type of front end that you're trying to use in the mobile application, it would be very custom built. So it has to be obviously from scratch. But I'm thinking of creating some components in Flutter that will react, maybe some 10 or 15, like a slideshow, and then that will allow you to, I guess, build the app much quicker. So the future for this, if people like it. Now, the module is, wrong. work on 10 and 11. It requires the JSON file, which you just download. Now, the JSON file from Firebase looks really good. I'm just going to show you really quickly what that looks like. If I'm going to go into the into users and permissions and generate this file, you can only download it once, I think. If I'm going to open it now, just to show you what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So you have your access using a service account. It has a private key, which allows you to do anything you want with Firebase. Probably very dangerous to make this public. It also has the endpoints and the users, which allows you to target the exact Firestore and Firebase version, which means that you download this, you add it to an environment variable, you specify what environment variable value is in the Drupal module, and that's going to pull in this key. It will display the truncated version of the key here, so you can validate that that's the correct one, project ID and all. Only a little bit of the key is exposed, and then you can create collections and edit the values in the collections, which will then change the app in real time. There we go. How's everyone going? Anyone wants to ask anything else? Does that sound like an interesting idea? Yeah? Yeah, I thought so. I think there is at the moment, before Drupal came to Australian government, everyone built their own thing. So 400 departments, .NET teams of 20 people, custom buildings from scratch, crazy amount of money wasted. Last, I think 5 years, Drupal is becoming more and more popular. I believe more than 56% now are in Drupal, which is huge. That means that you don't have to build it from scratch. You just use a module. Why not, right? And now we have this other problem with the mobile applications, because most government departments want mobile app. They're normally custom, they're normally built by hand, and they normally then build their own CMS or their own backend, or they tap into Drupal in a weird way. One was scraping a page every 5 minutes and updating something. It was unbelievable. So yeah, the problem is that the teams that normally do apps are not the web teams. They're normally very hands-on Swift or Java, and they don't understand the best practice in Drupal. So this would allow Drupal to govern the applications, which means that, yeah, it's a good thing for Drupal. Yes, okay, so any more questions? Yes?
So this is using Drupal to control the fields you have set up in Firebase. Like, is there a way to control fields that you have originally set up in Drupal, send those to Firebase, and then to your application?
There will be, there can be. Yeah, of course. I always kind of figured, if we can use Drupal as the source of truth and do not allow other, it would be better. Because the moment you say, oh, something else can change Drupal, uh-oh, Drupal's going to be changed by someone else. And do you really want that? That's the question. But yeah, the other way doesn't work at the moment, but it can, yeah, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, at the moment, see, Drupal is so amazing because you can change you can allow content editor with no technical skill to be able to change content or change the state of the application, but at the same time maintaining enterprise security, right? Here, we now can allow for that to happen in the mobile application, which normally never existed, or some custom CMS was built. And normally, right, I've never seen any fancy implementation. Very likely, the app has hard-coded stuff and they just pull in JSON API endpoints. With this, you can control the app. You can hide stuff, add more, change stuff, translate it, add more languages, deprecate features. to, you know, to show it in a bit of a more gamified way, because I saw that games somehow are getting less and less in talks. All right. C Zorns. Yeah! Oh, look at that. Congratulations. Yeah, so the gift card's yours, and anyone else, you feel free to find me. I'm around, and Dennis, feel free to find me, add me on LinkedIn, and really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for everything, and I'll see you around.